Hello and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new here. My name is Joni and I am the blogger behind simplelivingmama.com. And in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about the book Mother Culture. And I'm also going to show you guys my mother's morning basket. So, I think that this book needs to be read by every single homeschool mom. It is one of my most favorite books. It's well loved. And it's by one of my favorite homeschool authors, Karen Andreola. She wrote the Charlotte Mason Companion, which is actually the first homeschool book that I ever read, and I base a lot of my homeschool off of that book. But this book is excellent because it is written to the mother. And I think even if you aren't a homeschool mom, you can get a lot of wisdom from this book. So, if you're entirely new to the concept of mother culture, I'm going to go ahead and explain it to you right from the pages of this book. So, what is mother culture? That's the first chapter in the book. She has a quote at the beginning of the chapter. It says, "Mothers should cultivate their souls so that in turn they may cultivate the souls of their children." Mother culture is the skillful art with which a mother looks after the ways of her household and herself. In her home, she creates a culture all her own with a mingling of love and responsibility. A mother does a lot of taking care, so she also takes care of herself. So much depends on how she manages her life. I think that's important because as homemakers, as wives, as mothers, as homeschool teachers, it is so easy to put everybody and everything above ourselves and to not take care of ourselves, mentally, physically, spiritually. A lot of times it gets pushed down and pushed to the side. And I understand. I have 7 children. We have a very busy life, even though I would rather it not be busy. I would rather be able to say it's not busy. It just is by the very nature of the fact that we have a lot of people in our household. My husband has a full-time job outside of the home. And it's just the way that it is, and it's the season of life that we're in. We have older children that are getting more involved in different things outside of the house, which is perfectly fine and perfectly natural, and we still have very young children. So it is definitely busy, and I am very much guilty of not making time for myself. A lot of times there's just not time for it, but I have to be very intentional about making sure that I take some time for myself, physically, mentally, spiritually. So that's what mother culture is about. It's about taking care of yourself as a mother so that you can bring love into your household and just have a happy, smooth running home. So this book is over 40 chapters of wisdom. It's meant to be read in a way of which you can skip around. You don't have to read it straight through at one time. It's not like a story in which you just read it straight through. You can pick it up and read any chapter at any time and gain wisdom from it. I still to this day will pick it up and read a chapter and learn something new that I didn't learn the first time that I read that chapter. So there's a lot to be said about what's in this book to encourage and to inspire you in your role as a mother, as a homemaker, and as a homeschool mom. I do want to point out, obviously I'm not going to go through this entire book. I'll have it linked down below so you can go buy it yourself and read it for yourself. But I do want to point out a couple of the chapters that really spoke to me, just to give you an idea of what's in the book. So, if you are familiar with the Charlotte Mason method, we talk a lot about habits and habit training and how to go about training your children in good habits. It's not easy, is it? If you have a toddler, a young child, you'll know it's not an easy thing to do. There are some suggestions in this book that I thought were interesting and helpful about habit training. So let's see. She says, "The godly homemaker watches over the ways of her household. For a happy home, teach obedience, orderliness, first things first, truthfulness, courtesy, punctuality, attentiveness, thoroughness, neatness, purity, industry, integrity, respect, gratefulness, and diligence. Obviously, you can't teach all of those at the same time, but there are different ways that you can make these things a habit. May the steps of forming a habit shared here be useful in completing your mother culture and in shepherding your children with love and a spirit of gentleness. So she has different ways in which you can establish a habit. She has 4 different steps outlined for that. Command, explain, expect, and inspect. And I think I'm going to go through and I'm going to write these down in somewhere that I can see it on the regular so that I can remember. Because especially, I think if you have very young children, the first thing you need to teach is obedience. And I have found that to be one of the most difficult things to teach. Just because my kids kind of look at me and they know mom's kind of a softie and they can try to get away with whatever. So she has these 4 steps that will help you to establish a habit. And I found those very, very interesting and helpful, and something that I could still apply to my homeschool and to my kids today. The other chapter that I was really inspired by is Nourished by the Seeds of Ideas. So how does a mom take care of herself intellectually? Education is a life of ideas. That's what Karen Andreola says. The intellectual life, like every manner of spiritual life, has but one food by whereby it lives and grows, the sustenance of living ideas. So we know that we need to read our kids living books. We need to give them lots and lots of good ideas to be nourished by and to live by. But we need to do the same for ourselves. And that's where I'm going to get into my Mother's Morning Basket, and I'm going to show you guys how I try to do that for myself. But I choose books for myself that I read, when I can. I would like to say I have a regular reading schedule, but right now I don't. I kind of just pick up my books whenever I have the opportunity, and that's okay. As my children get older and I have a little bit more free time available to me, I will be able to read more, and I know that. But with toddlers and stuff, it can be very difficult to find that quiet time to really read. So I just kind of do it in my fringe hours whenever I have a chance to sit down quietly and read. But yes, anyway, I really like the chapter that she has all about being nourished by the seeds of ideas, and I found it very encouraging and inspiring for me to continue to do that for myself and for my children. Okay, and the last chapter that I kind of wanted to point out from this book is called How to Safeguard the Love of Learning. I'm going to find that real quick because I highlight things that I find very helpful in here so I can remember them. So, I think one of the things that I want to do as a homeschool mom is to help my children love learning. There are times that my kids, even now that they're older, they'll say, I don't like school, I don't like reading. And I know, my kids are not completely sheltered from the world. They're involved with other children at church and other children at homeschool co-op or within the scouting. And, that idea of, school is boring, school is hard, kind of gets passed around. I do think that it's just something that kids say, something that kids do, but I want them to look back on their education as adults and realize that mom did her best and tried to really help them learn to love learning. And this particular chapter is about how important it is for self-education. And that is definitely the goal that I have with my kids, is that they will continue to learn even when they're done with their education here in my home, that they will continue to love to learn even when they're done here. So she says, there is no substitute for self-education. With long lectures, teachers can spoil a child's healthy appetite for learning. Miss Mason's students derive knowledge not from lectures, but from good books. She put them directly in touch with the carefully chosen words of an author, one enthralled with his subject. She tells us that a school teacher, in his desire to be serviceable, believes that children cannot understand well-written books, and he must make himself a bridge between the pupil and the real teacher, the man who has written the book. What was her appraisal of the school books and lectures of her day? They were a bore. A dull education suppresses initiative. Charlotte Mason wanted students' minds to be engaged. So this book, or this particular chapter I should say, has given me the idea of how can I safeguard the love of learning? How can I choose living books? How can I choose materials? How can I choose curriculum that will inspire my kids, not just give them information to be regurgitated back and forgotten in a day or two? So she says, give children something interesting to think about, let the authors teach, require children to think, show and tell all the way through high school, explore the outdoors, expect their obedience to your big choices, give them small choices, inspire them to serve others, and so share what they know as they grow. So that is another little formula to help you safeguard the love of learning, give you some ideas of ways to inspire your kids and help them learn to love to learn. So that is just a couple of the chapters in this book. Like I said, there are 40 chapters in here, tons of wisdom, tons of knowledge. You could use this book the entire time that you're homeschooling. It is that amazing. You can pick it up anytime you need some encouragement or some fresh ideas. You can pick it up and read a chapter, and it's just right there in front of you. So back to what I was talking about mothers. Mothers need to nourish themselves spiritually, physically, mentally, and intellectually. So today I'm going to show you what is in my mother's morning basket. Now, before I show it to you, I'm going to tell you that right now I don't have a regular reading schedule, and I don't have a regular schedule to practice my chosen handicraft, just because we have come out of a really tough season of various sicknesses hitting us every couple of weeks, and just other things that have gotten in the way of what I had scheduled to do this year. But that's okay. I'm still going to move forward with what I have, and I'm going to show you guys that. So what I have is literally a basket full of books and goodies just for myself. I keep this in my bedroom. Whenever I have a quiet moment when I'm in here, I'll pick up a book to read and just try to nourish myself with ideas. So this basket is an old Pioneer Woman basket. I just love it. It's held up. I've had it for probably 5 or 6 years at this point. And it's held up really, really well. I'm going to tell you what kinds of books. So I have books in here from 3 different categories, as well as my Bible, which of course I probably read the most out of all of the books that are in here. So I keep my Bible in here, and then I have this little mother's manual, has lots of prayers specific for mothers, so I like to have that in there whenever I pray. This is my daily companion for women, so I can just read whatever day it is and get a little inspiration and encouragement from the Bible. So there's a scripture and then a reflection for each day, so I keep that in my mother's morning basket. I also keep my daily planner in here. This is just my Homemaker's Friend daily planner. It's very, very helpful for me. I use this all the time. Every day I jot down what needs to be done. I keep track of everything in my monthly spread, and just, it's super easy for me to grab it out of the basket and put it in my bag if I need to. Okay, I think now I'm going to get into the books before I jump into the journals and tell you about those. So like I said, I keep books in here from 3 different categories. I keep actually 4. I have 4 different categories. I keep a fiction book, a book related to my vocation of either a homeschool mom or a homemaker. I keep a stiff reading spiritual book. These usually take me a long time to get through, and they're kind of complicated, but I do like to read those. And then I also keep a classic in here, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. So here is my stiff book. This is what I've been reading for quite some time. It's the Introduction to the Devout Life. This is definitely a stiff book. It's lengthy and it's kind of hard to understand a little bit, but I like to stretch myself with it. So that is what I'm trying to read right now for my stiff book. My vocational book, I have Know and Tell, The Art of Narration by Karen Glass. This is great. I love this book. I'm trying to get it done before we start our new homeschool year, because something I have not done well in my homeschool is narration, and I want to get better at requiring my kids to narrate. So this book has been extremely helpful with that. My current fiction read is A Light in the Window. This is the second novel in the Mitford series. I read the first one and it took me a while to get through it. A lot of people really love these books. I don't know how I feel about it. They're cute, but I don't really get sucked into them. And I haven't started this one yet, but it's in here for me to start. So maybe this one will be a little bit more interesting. We'll see. And then the classic that I'm going to start working on as soon as possible is Anne of Green Gables. I actually have never read Anne of Green Gables, and I want to do that. I do listen to a lot of audiobooks as well, so I am finishing up The Secret Garden currently. As soon as I'm done with The Secret Garden, I'm going to start this one. And I was reading Little Women, and I had to stop. And I just don't know. I just could not get into it. I might have to try that one again at a later time, but I just really struggled with Little Women. I don't know why. But anyway, Anne of Green Gables is my next classic, and it is in here in my morning basket. Okay, I also have journals and notebooks in here. This is my commonplace journal, so anytime I find a really interesting quote or a poem or something from my readings, I will write it down in this journal. I have a mother's journal in here. I have not used this one nearly as much as I should, but it's just for, writing down thoughts about your kids, funny things that they say, like little notes you want to leave to your kids and stuff like that. So that's a cute one. I also have my prayer journal in here, so I write down any prayers, prayer requests, things like that. Now, I don't have a fancy nature notebook. I don't have a fancy, expensive nature notebook. I probably should invest in something a little bit better, but this is what I've been using. This is really not made for watercolors. I did try to do some watercoloring in here, but it works a lot better with colored pencils. So whenever I have the time, if we've gone on a nature walk or something like that, I will doodle what we've seen and kind of talk about where we've been and stuff like that. So no, I'm not an artist, but I try, and I actually find it pretty interesting and fun. So I decided this year that I really wanted to work on watercoloring. So I got a watercolor set for Christmas, which is pretty nice. And I got this watercolor workbook, which is beautiful. And my problem is it is wet. It's almost August, and I've only done a couple of pages in it so far. But I'm going to keep working on trying to make some time to do this, because it's something that I want to learn, and something that I've kind of not had a chance to do a lot of this year. So it might also be my 2024 project. We'll see. So that is everything that I have in my mother's morning basket. If you wanted to create one of these for yourself, I hope that that was helpful for you. So I hope that this video has been helpful for you, and You know, if you want to start your own Mother's Morning Basket, that you can go ahead and put that together. Even if you don't have a chance to read every single day or to do the handicraft that you've chosen on a regular basis, it's still there and available to you whenever you do have the opportunity to do it. And definitely try to make some time to nourish yourself. And if you have not picked up Mother Culture, read Mother Culture, I highly recommend that you do that as well. So I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one.